Double.
Hey, I don't know if anybody's here yet, but the recording has started, so we have to
There
act
we go.
professional now.
There it
Um,
is.
no, we this is sort of like if we're jumping in the middle of a conversation we were just having with things that generative AI does well, and some of the stuff that it's still struggling a little bit with. And I was talking about a something that is not quite ready, although I listen to this great podcast every week from these two guys in Silicon Valley. These ones that two data scientists, and they just all they do is talk about language models and what's coming and news and generative AI for the week. And the big thing that has been a struggle for some of these companies is math and calculations and that kind of thing. And it's they are getting better and better. But I have a test case that I have used to see if how good they are in the immigration space, and it is I'll upload the visa bulletin, and have a prompt set up asking it, saying, here are five fake clients on there, and here's their visa categories, their priority dates, their nationalities, and I want you to tell me, give me a chart on which of these are current for the final action chart and which of these are current for the filing date chart, and then generate that for me. And it'll do that in 2 seconds, and it'll look beautiful. And then I'll actually go through and see how it did, and it'll like make one mistake on there. And so it's pretty good, but it has to be perfect for that task. So that's that's one that's not ready yet. On there, it's better as a language model than as a math model at this point. But I do know that some of the stuff that's some of the models that are just rolling out are claiming to be way better at calculations and math and that kind of thing. So that's that's sort of my little test to figure out just whether they are how it is. So I actually have taken that prompt and set up to some different language models to test it out and see how they're doing on there. And some do better than others, but nobody has gotten it perfect yet on there, that particular task. That's sort of our little benchmark for when we know the math part of it, it's all where it needs to be. So that's a tip to Gen users, is that it's great for drafting, it's great for research, it's great for a lot of things. Right now, probably be a little careful if you're using it for date calculation tasks and that kind of thing. But it will get there. It's just not quite there yet. So, gentlemen, Josh, I don't know.
There you go.
Josh W.
There you go.
Do you have I don't know if you have an agenda, or we're just going to kind of like talk about sort of news of and generative AI more broadly. But what's on your list?
It's a very short list today. We have like just some really simple updates on the product. If you're just joining us, thanks for joining another edition of Gen Weekly, our Tuesday live stream, which we plan to have every Tuesday moving forward. Unlike last week, which was our fault, but AI company still trying to figure out how to do a live stream. I think that's kind of a joke. So yeah, a few updates. Obviously there's a lot always happening in generative AI. We updated our model to the more recent GPT-4 Turbo. We're exploring some of the new vision capabilities, which are really interesting. We have not implemented any of those into the production environment yet. Are working on it. Super high note, you're welcome to check our change log on the website, but we now have 20 relevant sources that appear when someone asks a question to our data set. We have extended some of the functionalities around the library. We're wanting to expand the abilities of users being able to upload large amounts of files and store them, categorize them, easily access them. Basically, all the functionality in Gen is working, we think, fairly well at this point, but we're wanting to expand it for more scalability, larger companies, larger firms, or just more internal data that you want to utilize. So those are really some of the focus areas, as well as, of course, draft. So the last, I guess, sort of announcement I'll make on the product side is that we have launched our first draft beta. And with that, our first version are O1 petition letters, EB1
It's
petition.
very cool.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm
Not biased, but yeah. Yeah, no, it's great. We've released the beta program to a very small select number of firms at this point, but we do have another announcement today, which is we are releasing the beta product, or I guess you could call it a prototype at this point, for both O1 O1 petition letters, EB1 petition letters, and the associated support letters are all included in this prototype. Any current Gen user will be able to join that beta program later this month. And so we'll be sending out some information to all our current users. Really excited about that. But if you're interested in learning more, obviously you can reach out to anyone on our team. But yeah, that will be something we're really excited for, and hopefully releasing it live into the world at AILA Annual later this.
What are some of the other processes on the roadmap for that tool? The immigration processes?
The initial version will have O1, EB1, NIW, all very predictable, I guess. And then the I-601A will be on there. Then we'll have, we're going to add some additional sort of, I guess, sort of like maybe a little bit more templated.
Engagement letters are an example, right?
Yeah, engagement letters.
Yep.
Of course, we've done a lot of work with public access files in the past, so we may have a simple path generating tool. Things like that are just going to be like simple add-ons, but we're really hopeful to get user feedback and learn more about what kind of drafting capabilities. Obviously, a lot of the stuff that's out there right now is very business immigration heavy in terms of the drafting that they're doing, but we're very interested in expanding into family and humanitarian areas as well. So yeah, that's it on the product for now. There's obviously more to talk about, but we'll have more time for that.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I can kind of take over if you want and talk.
Yeah. Talk about the AI Academy that we're working on.
Yeah, so things that we're working on here, and what I'm currently working on is kind of an AI Academy for both existing and future kind of Gen users. So we understand that immigration attorneys, your specialty most of the time is being an immigration attorney. Not everyone is a prompt engineer. Not everyone has time to do all this as well. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to build kind of a learning resource that will be on our website, ideally by the end of the month, that will have both resources of how to fully utilize Gen, along with things like definitions or other things that are AI specific that we could really see as being beneficial to people who might want to get into the space but maybe don't fully understand what Gen does or how to use it. We want to make sure that not only is it going to be easily accessible for anyone to jump into, but also people are getting the most out of Gen that they possibly can. So being able to make those customized prompts, being able to create their own workflows within the program, that's kind of what the goal of this is just to really give everyone kind of a resource base for people to go to, and to kind of reach out to anyone who's actually watching too. If there are specific questions or things that you're like, hey, I feel like this hasn't been addressed, or I haven't gotten an answer for that, feel free to reach out to us too, and any of those things we can try and include in the Academy as well. We really are trying to look at this not only from a high level, but also from an in-depth perspective of existing users, and especially if we're adding more people here as we're getting the drafting and stuff too, just making that there's a full comprehensive database for people to explore. So I just wanted to at least get the word out that is coming, and if there's specific requests for materials or topics to be covered that you feel haven't been covered thoroughly, or would like to be covered more thoroughly in the future, shoot us an email, or you can shoot myself an email. Just my name, Josh Sennett at vsalai.com, and happy to try and get those in the Academy as well.
Great. Yeah. So we're really quick today. We're usually usually go over. I guess Greg, you were talking about some use cases at the beginning.
To share a little bit.
If you let me get into sharing the screen.
Yep.
Hold on a second. I got to figure this out. Window. Where do I want it?
No worries. with this moment of time we do have while you're figuring out the screen share, we do have a webinar this Thursday about this specific topic. We're going to spend an entire hour in our first webinar talking about immigration specific use cases. And obviously we'll be using Gen, but any sort of AI tools that you utilize at your firm or organization, these sort of conversations we'll be having should be hopefully helpful, beneficial, learning about ways you can utilize this AI in your practice.
Absolutely.
So Greg, I see your screen. I think I have to add it to the stage. Let's do it.
You're not seeing it?
There you go.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. So I was just going to show a couple of things. One was this was one just sort of an example of, this is a question that came up in our office this morning from one of our lawyers who was trying to figure out an answer to an E-Verify question, and it didn't, he couldn't get it. We have a Teams channel for our lawyers. Nobody knew what the best way to go about it was. And I wanted to show this as an illustration just for a couple of reasons. One is that the way I asked this question was exactly sort of, I'm cut and pasted it from the lawyer's question that was on the Teams channel. Corporate client has multiple E-Verify numbers associated with a single entity. Each entity is supposed to have one E-Verified number, so it appears a mistake was made. What's the best way to go about fixing that? I like that question because it sort of illustrates the difference between sort of Boolean, old school legal research questions that you would have to ask, and a lawyer would have kind of struggle being able to figure out there. They'd have to know where to go and look for it. Here, so I just asked the question the way the person thought about the question. One thing I wanted to illustrate here was on the library itself, and I don't know if this shows up or not, if it's on there, when I click to select categories, if that window shows up. But we have an I-9 library that has a lot of interesting materials that are specific for that subject matter, and it did a really nice job answering. And you can see this. I wanted to kind of point out that we have a mix of materials in there, and that sometimes if you just have to remember that you can ask a question for just sort of everything that we have in all our libraries, but sometimes it's smaller is better, or more narrow is better as far as selecting which libraries or which materials that you want to limit your answer to. In this case, you can see that there's a very large E-Verify FAQ document that's in Gen. There's a I-9 and E-Verify handbook that I co-authored that some of you may know from the AILA bookstore, and then the Memorandum of Understanding for E-Verify, as well as the M274 handbook. So it did a pretty good job as far as figuring, pulling from a variety of different documents, and then you can see again how what language it was coming from. So I wanted to show that, and then also this is a video that we recorded on, and that's available on the Gen. Josh has done most of the work on recording a lot of use case videos. But I wanted to show this one because it's sort of a combination of different. It's how you would use it in a conversation format as opposed to just asking it a question, one-off question, and walking away. So a couple of weeks ago, TPS for Burma was extended, and again, I gave it a very general question: is TPS available for Burma? If so, tell me what the rules are for that. So it gives a pretty good answer, and it's pulling from the March 2024 TPS announcement in here. And then this is sort of the way to think about this, is sort of like, what are all the things that if you're talking to a client that you're going to have to think about as far as getting them ready if you're going to file something for them in this space. So first thing I asked is, give me a checklist of the documents I need from a Burmese client to apply for a TPS extension. And it does that, as well as tell me which documents that it was pulling from. And I was not surprised to see that it was pulling some stuff from the cookbook, as well as some primary law stuff. Then I asked it to generate a questionnaire form for me for a TPS extension questionnaire, and it was able to do that on here and find me all that information. Then I asked it to write an email to a client explaining the rules for this and what we were going to be doing. And then I asked it to give me a cover letter to USCIS about, that would go with the application. And it did that. So I liked all of that because it gave me it was sort of like an illustration of sort of how you can go from task to task to task in the and still all pulling from the library when it needed to. So I'm hoping people will start to think about using it in that way as opposed to just drafting one little thing or just answering one legal question, but that you can kind of group a lot of these tasks together. So I think that's what that's the main thing I wanted to illustrate. Well, actually, there is one other thing I'll show, and that is that in Private GPT, I used it for something for the law firm this week, which was drafting a press release for something that we're going to be announcing soon. And I was trying to remind people as well that the Private GPT is really quite good on helping you draft marketing materials like blog posts, or helping you to work on an article, or helping you on that. And the nice thing about it is that you don't have to really worry about any confidential information. So in our case, the the press release is about something that's confidential right now that we're going to be announcing shortly for the law firm. And it was something I don't think I would have felt comfortable asking ChatGPT to help me with that particular task, because everything that you put in ChatGPT, generally speaking, is being used to train their data set. And it is possible that confidential information can get out into the world because it's training their AI model. Also, occasionally there are quality control human beings that look at ChatGPT chats to if there's anything that's flagged in there that they want to check. So that is something that I wanted to illustrate or mention, that that's something that you should be using Private GPT for if you want to use those kind of ChatGPT tasks, but they have things in there that you're not comfortable sharing with the world, and you want to keep that information on your servers. So that's it, guys.
Great. Yeah, that's really helpful. And we'll have more on the use cases this Thursday. We might highlight some of those again, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of other things to share.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
But I guess, yeah, sort of high level recap. I did want to say some of the things that Greg was talking about, though, on this sort of like task or sort of like multi-step process with our sort of like legal research chat. I think it definitely plays into this sort of future roadmap feature we have around projects. Right now, when you're dealing with any kind of GPT interface, usually it's at this point a chat interface. We're really hoping to pivot, sort of like automate. I think almost like workflows and that kind of idea. With the things we're talking about with drafting more complex documents. Sometimes you may not necessarily just want to ask a research question. Maybe you need to ask for certain templates or have the system like generate certain documents. And so like all these different tasks, like right now, if you're in a chat interface, of course you have it stored in history, but we really hope that it will be relatively soon all sort of stored in these central, what we call project folders or project, this sort of project area of Gen, where you can easily, create this sense of like workflow automation within the product. So we're really excited about that idea and that concept. It definitely, the sort of like multi-step idea, I think really plays.
And hopefully eventually tying in with integrating with case management systems, where things that you're producing in Gen can be pushed into your case management systems, and vice versa, where data from your case management systems can help to feed into prompts that you're working on in Gen. So that's definitely part of the roadmap too.
Yeah, it's definitely there. We're still at the information gathering stage with the integrations, having conversations with a lot of vendors and getting feedback from our users to see the kinds of ways we should integrate, so that we, obviously we can do that well. But it's most core, the simplest way to think about it is, it's really just text in, text out. So from an integration standpoint, you would think in some ways that could be done relatively quickly and efficiently. But otherwise, as a recap, we have a webinar on Thursday about use cases, immigration use cases with AI. We'll all be there, as well as some other team members, to talk through various use cases. We made a big announcement, and we'll make we'll
send another one. Yeah.
We'll be sending out a few announcements, I'm sure, over the coming weeks, but obviously the O1 and EB1 draft prototype is going to be offered to all current users of Gen for a limited time. I think that's should be exciting for folks. And then also the AI Academy that Josh was talking about a little bit earlier, just a simple resource for lawyers and legal professionals looking to just understand these like really core topics and concepts and how it applies to their practice. So yeah, I think hopefully I covered most of it. Any other thoughts?
I would say, yeah, all I was going to say is if you haven't signed up for Gen, now's the time, because you're that early access beta and getting your feedback in the academy. So, give it a shot. Other than that, don't have too much to add on my end.
Great. Thanks everybody for joining today. This is our weekly live stream, and hope to see you again next week.
Bye.
Easy.